Okay, welcome to your eye demonstration. And then after this would be like perfecting skin tone. Like I really notice I need to work a little bit more in here. She definitely needs to be lighter in there. So after you get like all of your facial features done, then it's time to like refine and perfect skin. So I will do one more demonstration on that because I feel like that's the part that, really makes you look like you. I also pre-prepared. So I sharpened my pencil sharpener or my pencil eraser. And I got my Sharpies out because we're going to cheat with the eyelashes. Very carefully because there's no going back once we get Sharpie. All right, so I am going to do I started kind of doing the skin around. I'm like, ooh, really? I want to do that eyeball first to kind of see how much lighter the skin should be. So I did sharpen my pencil, my charcoal pencil, and go around the iris. And then on this side, like I can't see the edge of the iris at all, but I might just fake a little bit, like super gently, of an edge for the side of the eye there. Okay, so taking a look at the white eyeball part. Now remember, your eyeball is a sphere. It's rounded, so you do need a range of value to make it look more round. So hers is brighter along here. And then it kind of fades out a little bit more as you get closer to the eye. So since it's a small area, I'm fading out sooner. So I'm leaving that dark halo around the eye. Her eyes are fairly dark in the picture. They're not as dark as what it looks like on this screen, but I am super gently gonna outline that pupil. And like that's all. I want to keep that eye fairly dark. Okay, so now I'm looking at the tear duct part. So she has, maybe that comes down a little bit more actually. So she has like a little piece of tissue in there, and then this is like the water line. So I'm gonna add like a little bit of value, and most of it would be with my blender. Small blender. I'm gonna go back in and try to get a clean edge. Thoroughly blended. Going right up to that outline of the iris. So you want to have your eyes not look outlined, obviously. That's what we're aiming for. And you can always go lighter. But remember, it's kind of hard to go darker at this point. Okay, so I'm going to build up that layer. Do another layer. I'm looking at where the highlight is. And I'm going to try to match my original outline. Okay, then I'm gonna wipe off my blender like on the border to clean it. Because now I'm gonna touch into the iris part, and since her eyes are really dark, like I really don't want hardly any value in there. And then I'm gonna take my kneaded eraser and I'm gonna even pull some of that off. So I'm gonna make the kneaded eraser into a little point. Pull this off. And I'm gonna lighten that outline. So it's like super subtle, barely visible. Her eyes are fairly dark. Okay, so then I'm taking a look at the white eyeball part and looking for little specks of light. Usually it's on the edges where your eyelids meet. So she has like a little bit of reflected light up top. There's a little speck of light there. There's one on top of the eye. Actually, that's a little bit more of a line. On top of the eye right there. There's one lighter edge and there. And I'm not going to blend those. We're going to let them be. Although I do feel like in here. Yeah, just a little bit more. Okay. So with the small blender, I'm going to do like the waterline, and then we'll erase out where the lashes are going to go just to kind of keep that darker edge. So if you, I mean, like, even if you couldn't see her eyelashes, you would still probably see like a darker line where your lashes are. And so you want to make sure you're going around that part. Okay, so she has some tissue on the inside here that's, I mean, it's not white, but it's definitely lighter than where her lashes are. And some of this is going to happen like with the skin. I need to bring the skin down a little bit. Okay, so looking really closely. And then I'm looking at the value behind the eyelashes. So I am kind of outlining where that skin is, where it meets the eye. This is where her lashes are, and the shadow kind of fades down. To the shadow from her cat eye, I guess you could say. Okay, so now I'm taking a look at where's the lightest value behind the eyelashes. So for her, it's like in the center here, and then it kind of fades back a little bit. But overall, her eyelids are fairly light. So you really have to pay attention to like the subtle ranges of value. So in order to make the eyelid look curved, oops, sorry, I'm looking for like, okay, the highlight there, but noticing over here it's slightly darker. I'm noticing that it's lighter here, but like here it's slightly, super slightly darker. And she has a subtle crease. So right there, like it's not dark. I'm gonna go around it for now though. And then I'll go back and kind of super blend it in. But I want to leave it there because it's very subtle. And that'd be hard to put back in. Okay, so she also has like kind of this like slight curve over here. Like where it's a little bit darker. It's not sharp like that, but then we'll use the larger blender to kind of soften. Let me bring this up a little bit down here. And I'm looking at how much space between that shadow and her. It kind of fades out anyway. And then I'm going to be super gentle. Okay, let's look underneath the eye. So I have that slight crease, but I'm going to bring it up a little bit because it's super slight on her. Slightly lighter. Okay, her waterline is lighter. And it just kind of fades into the skin. And it fades to darker waterline over there. Okay. Medium blender, unless your eyes are small in your picture, hers are kind of big, so unless your eyes are small in your picture, I start with medium. Oh, I'm also going to do an eyebrow on this one too, just in case yours are not crazy like Salvador Dali's. I'm going to kind of still go around those creases even though they're not that harsh, I still want it to kind of be there just in case. I can always go over it. Sorry, I have to stand up. Let me get a different angle. I'm not blocking any of the light. I'm going to gently blend over that the first time, that upper lid. Unless yours is super dark, then obviously leave it. Okay. Alright, so before I get too much further, alright, let's see. I think this needs to come down a little. Let me get rid of that outline. Oh, so with my kneaded eraser, have it kind of pointy, I'm going to draw back in some of the darker medium values that I've gone over. So like underneath the eye here, she actually has a little bit of eyelash shadow happening. I'm going to draw that back in there. And I'm going to go back over the lash line like right in here. Like where I accidentally clean that out. And then I feel like over here it's like a little bit of a fuzzier kind of edge, a little more curved. If you've lost your crease, you can, like over here, I feel like, just slightly. Fade that in. Okay, then I'm going to add another layer where my lightest parts are. I'm looking how this kind of fades up and over. And looking at like the top of the eyebrow where she has some highlight happening. So in here where your face kind of curves out, it's gonna catch some light. So like the curvature of your eyes, the nose, etc. Okay, underneath her eye, I feel like there's a little bit. Kind of fades out, but then over here it is a little bit darker. I'm gonna pull back out. Oh, I need to clean my kneaded eraser. Okay, so I'm gonna lift back out. It just fades into that crease. I feel like that still looks a little pointy. I want it to be more curved. And I'm gonna blend over that. So you're like, oh, that's too much, but that'll get blended over. Okay, medium blender again. So in this top layer, I'm hoping like I won't have to go back over this so much. So I'm not really pressing very hard where I have added the highlights. Because when you press really hard, you kind of like move it around. It doesn't really stick where you need it to. So at a certain point, I mean, like the paper only takes like so much, so. And then I'm gently kind of blending over that subtle, darker curve. Okay, that's pretty subtle. I have to add a little bit more back in there. So you're adding and pulling away. All right, inside of the eye. I have to redraw that shadow anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna gently kind of blend over that crease right there. Or really it's like the indentation of her eye socket. Choose, bring that higher. Now she looks super blended out. I'm gonna go back in and draw that crease. Kind of add that in. And now that I'm noticing there's a slight crease there. And then I keep one end of my big blender like with nothing hardly on it. But you can always test out like how dirty is that blender. And test it out. Okay, that's not too bad. And I'm just gonna kind of do like a sweeping motion in the same direction just to kind of soften. This part I know needs work. Probably do that when we start doing the eyebrow. Okay, so now I'm gonna check again. Where do I need to clean up because the eyelashes? Okay, here she did have some eyeliner on, so it's like a little smoker. I'm gonna tap that. She has a little tiny bit of a line where the lashes are on that side. Because we're gonna add Sharpie after this, so I want it to be how it needs to be. It still needs to be a light in there. That's okay, I'm not gonna add Sharpie in that part. Okay, but I feel like this is too dark now. I feel like it needs to angle. Okay, I'm gonna just blend over that gently because it's not black and it fades into about here. Okay. You can, if your eyes are a little bit smaller, you might want to use the Sharpie pens if they're still, you know, viable. All right, this is the the part. Okay, I am going to start with the pencil top eraser, and I'm going to just erase out because then I can blend over if it's not right with some guidelines. Like I have one looking for chunks of lashes, and I look at how high above the crease do they go. Kind of planning out. Okay, there's that one. She has a short one. One really close to it. And I look at length and direction. Like, and I look at length according to like the upper eyelid. Okay, now they start changing direction. And so you don't have to obviously draw every single one, and then it gets kind of like fuzzy looking over here. And then she does have some eyelash shadow happening below, so I'm going to put that in there. Except for that looks a little harsh. Blend over that a little bit. And I'm just gonna kind of tap my blender because of where those lashes are. Okay, so I have my guidelines of the major chunks. And if it doesn't look right, you know, you can add a little bit, blend over, and start again before you start with the Sharpie. Okay, so let me test. Okay. And so you want to flick away so that they're smaller on the end. Sorry, I'm like comparing very closely. Okay. So you can always add more, but you can't take away. And remember, you're adding the lashes that are yours, not the ones you want. Like I would want these. And she has. My eyelashes don't look like this ever. So really paying attention to length and direction is key. Otherwise you're going to like, you have spider eyes. Okay, so over here, I mean, it's just kind of, there's a couple chunks, but it's mostly kind of nondescript. So I'm going to kind of like do a couple short ones. Actually, my Sharpie's picking up some charcoal. Kind of long ones, and then do like the 2 chunks. All right, then I'm going to take a step back. I feel like they just need to be a little thicker at the base. So I'm going to do some shorter ones fading up into the long ones I have, especially like over here. And if your Sharpie runs out, you have to kind of, I'm scribbling on my piece of covering so I can kind of get the charcoal off. Okay. Yeah, there is like one. So I'm putting in like the small ones between. Okay, I feel like that's enough. And I think this shadow came up a little too high. All right, bottom. So only if the skin around the eye is refined and perfected. So she just has a couple and they look kind of short. Okay. All right, there's that eye. For this one, I would definitely give myself guidelines for the major chunks, and then I notice how like these are kind of pointing up and really short, and then these I would have to like layer in. So I would judge like, oh, it comes almost halfway over into the finger. I don't want to do those yet because that finger's not done, but I wanted you guys to be able to move on, especially if you don't have hands. Okay, eyebrows. This will go pretty fast because the eyebrows are fairly dark. Her eyebrows fade, so that's what I'm kind of looking at. So with my small blender, I'm going to look at length and direction. So I'm going to pull like little hairs. Actually, I need a little bit more charcoal on my small blender. So on my border, I'm going to make a little puddle of charcoal so I can dip my blender into it. I'm going to pull down. So you want like little kind of sweeping motion. And then her eyebrows are fairly dark, but I can still see like the direction of the hairs in them. So I am going to do like a sweeping kind of motion. You just don't want it to look striped. So you want short kind of little hairs, and usually towards the outside edge they start growing kind of down. Ooh, that's a little bit too much. If you get too much, it's okay because we can pull out a little bit. Okay, I needed that to fade a little bit more from her skin, especially like in here. Maybe a little bit more. Dipping it in the. Okay, so if I have some definite skin showing in that part. Okay, then if you got too much, then you can use the pencil top eraser and erase out like some streaky, darker parts, like bring back the black. Just be careful, and I'm gonna finish up her edge. She was highly manicured. She has like perfect eyebrows. Highly manicured eyebrows. But put your eyebrows how they are. Like if they're kind of jaggedy in this part and they point down in this direction, like put that in there. That's what makes you look like you. You're never gonna be as young and as beautiful as you are now. Okay. I might adjust that a little bit when I do the skin, a little bit more around that, but I feel like that's good enough to show you how to like fade the skin in and how to pick up some on your small blender. There's your eye and eyebrow. Actually, she does really need some. Now that I look at it from far away. Look at it from far away. Like hold up your picture. Like right in here, I can really see skin. Kind of showing a little bit more. You could always put more charcoal down. But then I feel like it's more squarish than what I have. So I'm gonna pinch my kneaded eraser and pull out some hairs that way. Okay. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, I feel like that's good. All right, so hopefully your eye goes well. Remember to like sharpen before you start and really analyze like what values the waterline. Hers is light over here and dark over here. And if you have some shiny reflections in the eye, like in here, I would probably, and I can do a whole nother layer and just not blend. Touch up the little highlights. Okay, hopefully your eye and eyebrow goes well. See you in the next video.